It is the Lehocky Eagles post-game show. We're live at Ocean Casino. Mike Missinelli with Derek Gunn and Seth Joyner. Devin Caney will be back with us a little bit. We'll have John McMullen live from the stadium to analyze the game. But let's just go over a couple things now as the Eagles win 35-10 rather easily against the Tennessee Titans, a team that was supposed to test them today. They're now 11-1, and there are not many games left now. So 3 games on the road, and we'll see how they fare. The one in the middle is a weird one with the Chicago Bears. Next week, a division game, and then the other side of that, the Dallas Cowboys. So hopefully they can avoid that Bears trap. They stink, and they shouldn't have any problem with it. So we're all looking forward to 3 weeks from now. But let's talk about Jalen Hurts a little bit. 380 yards, 3 touchdowns, rather easily. Let's go into a little 2-minute drill here. We'll get some quick-hitting questions for the guys. Is he so good now that we're almost taking him for granted, that we expect these kind of performances?
No.
Okay.
It's a pleasure to watch, as he continues to evolve into one of the most talked about quarterbacks in the National Football League right now. We're 12 games into this thing, and he just continues to get better and better with his reads, his touch on his passes. We talk about the 2 deep balls he threw. The one to A.J. Brown down the sideline, and we thought was a touchdown. A.J. stepped out of bounds. And then, of course, the one he dropped right on the money. A.J. caught it over the defender. Look at the touch on his passes over the middle to Jack Stoll. It's just a pleasure to watch this young man continue to grow the way he is. I don't think we take it for granted because there have been a few games where his passing's been a little bit off. And we're going to find a couple of other games where it may not be as perfect as we've been accustomed to. But I think the consistent growth in his overall game has been exceptionally pleasing to watch up to this point.
Seth?
I think we should, at this point in time, if we're going to talk about the Eagles getting to the Super Bowl, yeah, we should expect this. The game plan is going to change. And to D. Gunn's point, show me a quarterback in the NFL who doesn't have a game or 2 during the season when, his mechanics are off, he misses some throws, so on and so forth. But the weapons that he has around him, the improvements that he's made, and the ability of the run game to give him the type of balance that will allow him to be an efficient passer of the ball, we can expect this. We can maybe not this type of performance, but listen, he threw for 300 yards against the Minnesota Vikings. Everybody week 1 said, he just ran all over the place. I don't know if this guy, is going to last the season. Then he turned around, against Minnesota, who played a lot of zone, and he sat in the pocket. He operated from the pocket, threw for 300 yards and a few touchdowns there. They were pretty balanced for a while, and then Dallas Goedert gets hurt. And then all of a sudden they start running the ball like crazy. The passes start going down. He's only averaging about 130 yards a game passing the ball. And then all of a sudden he comes out today, boom, 375 yards passing. I mean,
his rating was 130.3. Now, the one touchdown, A.J. Brown, this is the definition of a great double move, where the defensive back actually collides with the fake. And drops like a stone, and A.J. goes right around him, wide open for 30 yards. That play was really telling to me what a great move that was.
Well, not only that, but it also tells you just how strong of an individual A.J. Brown is, because it was like the DB hit a truck's head on. He crumpled down and took a little bit getting up. You combine that kind of physical strength with the speed and the dexterity that he has, man, I tell you what, he is everything that he was advertised to be before he got here and then some. And, he's such a difficult matchup with the DBs. Most DBs physically cannot match up with him in terms of physicality and agility, and it's showing week after week.
Let me ask you another question on a 2-minute drill. Was the double reverse flea flicker an example of Shane Steichen being bored? that he would call something like that we would call in the sandlot, that play?
Well, it's a play we might see down the road, and who better to use it against than a Tennessee team where you have under control at that particular time. It's a play we hadn't seen all year long. So why not see how well it works in a game like this is already out of reach?
Well, listen, I think a lot of what you see sometimes that these coaches run are just plays to plant a seed, in defensive coordinators' minds moving forward. You really don't think that, a play like that is, and realistically, if Miles Sanders cuts that defensive end, then he probably has time to actually throw the ball down the field, because I guarantee you that was a shot call. But he had to go back to Quez Watkins on the sideline, because in the midst of all of this, razzle-dazzle, the defensive end just got up the field and spoiled the play. But sometimes coaches will run plays like that just to plant a seed in the defensive coordinator's mind, because in that weekly preparation, it's like, when they're lined up like this and this guy's over here and that guy's over there, they might run this again, So it's part of the whole chess game that goes on from a strategic standpoint, in game planning.
All right, point number 3. They didn't rush the ball that well today. They didn't need to, but 24 carries, Miles Sanders, 24 yards on 10 carries. They weren't very effective doing it when they did it. Again, they didn't really have to. Was that any concern to you guys?
No, because we knew the game plan was going in, attacked Tennessee through the air. We knew Tennessee was very good against the run, just like Washington is very good against the run. There's only one team that really frustrated the Eagles this year in terms of running the football, and Washington did it twice. Tennessee is very similar up front, and it starts with that guy Jeffrey Simmons. He's just that kind of player. They just don't have much else around him outside of Bud Dupree. The back end of that defense has been a mess all season long, and it showed itself today. So, no, in terms of not being able to run the ball in this particular game, absolutely not.
No, listen, the Eagles have got to be averaging, I want to say, coming into this game, right around 170, 175 yards a game rushing. That's not a concern, because you go into this game, you know that it's going to be tough sledding. So you take the path of least resistance is against a team who's 31st against the pass. You're going to take advantage of that opportunity. But when they need to run the ball, and you can see early in the game when they were, running the ball just a little bit, if they were committed to actually running the football the way they had been the last couple of weeks, or committed to balance, I should say, they could have ran the football, because they did have some good runs. They just didn't run it a lot. Listen, the Eagles' two quarterbacks, and Gardner Minshew only threw 2 passes. They threw the ball 41 times today. I mean, that's a lot of pass plays. And if you're going to throw the ball that much, then, the numbers are going to be down in the 20s as far as how many times you actually run the ball. But the Eagles have proven that when they need to run the football, they can run it. When they need to throw it, they can throw it. When they need to be balanced in their approach and give you a little bit of both, they can do that too.
No, you predicted that they would maybe throw the ball 45 times in this game. They got to 41. All right, let's talk about the defense. There weren't many things that went wrong today, but there was one situation where the Titans really threatened to tie this game at 14, and they had to settle for a field goal. And that big play was a 41-yarder to the tight end, Okonkwo, and that's where Epps whiffed in the middle of the field, and they got the ball. That got the ball at the 18, and then we had Titans give it back. They had a 3rd and 1. They get a false start and then a sack. And I thought that was really important for the Eagles defense to hold them down to 3 at that point.
This is a defense that has made its name on making strategic plays when it has to. And Seth, I'm like Seth in a lot of ways. The scheme frustrates you in a lot of ways, but the end result is they make plays. They find a way to make plays, whether it's Darius Slade, Bradbury, Edwards, guys in the trenches. And now with the addition of Sue and Linval Joseph in the middle of this defense, Jordan Davis coming back, they're going to continue to make plays. All significant reasons why they hold opponents to under 20 points a game. And how much more can you ask? Do you like to see them do things a certain way, a little bit differently? Yes. But you can't complain with the end results and where they're sitting right now, because it is still, no matter what we like or dislike about it, it is still a top 5 defense in the National Football League.
Hey, listen, 11-1 is 11-1. It's a lot of times, you don't be concerned about how you get there. You get there. Now, we're going to talk about it. We're going to break it down. We're going to scrutinize it. We're going to analyze it. That's what we do. That's what we're here for. Okay, but. At the end of the day, this football team still is 11-1.
And they overcome things. It's like Okay, Devontae, they challenged the play. He turned out he was out of bounds on that pass play. And A.J. looked like he had a 40-yard TD, a double move, and they get it back. So whatever they do that was wrong, they kind of come back and cover it up and do what's right. It's uncanny what they do.
Very few teams in the National Football League do that on a consistent basis. You know, you look at a team like Kansas City, they do it. For the most part, Miami has been able to do it in a lot of ways this year. But that's a luxury that is going to benefit them, especially come playoff time, when things are not going extremely well. How quickly and efficiently can they overcome it? We have seen it from this team on both sides of the ball time and time again this season, and that is why they are where they are right now. All these little things that they're doing now, and they've had to win games so many different ways this year, all of that's going to come back and be mixed into the pot when it comes one-and-done scenario after the regular season is over.
Well, listen, it really is all about the experiences that you can accrue throughout the season. Those experiences are what you put in the bank. Being down for the first time and having to come back, against the Colts, not having an answer offensively all day, and then figuring out in the fourth quarter, it's time to turn Jalen loose. He had been running the last 2 or 3 weeks. Let's turn him loose. That wins you the game. Having a game last week where you explode for 363 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. A day like today, where Jalen Hurts is 23 for 39 or 20. Is that 23 or 29?
29 for 39.
29 for 39, for 275, 280 something yards, 380 something yards.
380.
So all of these things they kind of play in together, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to build up all of these experiences throughout the year, so that when you face these things in the playoffs, it's not a shock to the system. It's more like, okay, been there, done that before. We've experienced this before. We know what to do to remedy the situation.
All right, a couple other things I want to touch on. But right now, listen, we all want to save money on our car insurance. Here's how to save up to 40% on your car insurance right now. Message from our good friends at Del Val.
My name is Fran Salerno, and I'm a managing director here at Del Val Insurance Group. Been in the business for over 36 years, saving people money on their insurance needs. Give us a call. Let us help you custom design an insurance plan that meets both your needs and budget.
Righty, there you go. Save 40% on your car insurance. Let's talk about special teams. We were complaining about special teams last week. They made a few changes. They were a little better, but mostly on the return game, where our boy Covey, I know he's one of Seth's favorite players, Britton Covey, had a pretty good day today, Seth.
I love Covey, man. I love Covey, and listen, I love what Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman did. They elevated this kid Ellis this week from the practice squad, and he had the first coverage tackle on special teams today, just lit somebody up on kickoff. Sometimes you have to light a fire under the special teams to get them guys going. You got to elevate somebody. You may have to, release somebody else to send that message that, you've got anywhere from 15 to 20 plays a game. We expect for you to be like kamikazes out there every time you're on the field, because your opportunities are limited. When in our return game, we need you to get your guy and make sure your guy's blocked. In the coverage game, we need you to fill your lanes, converge on the ball, and make sure tackles. Something was different about the special teams today. I don't know what the conversation was throughout the week. I don't know whose ass Nick Sirianni chewed, but they played much better today. Britton Covey, listen. Six punt returns for 105 yards. Okay, they haven't had that kind of production in forever. And what's my advice? What do y'all hear me say every single time he catch one?
Block.
Straight ahead, man. Go straight ahead. Don't go sideways.
Where, they really hadn't blocked for him that well
but
this whole season.
But that's what I'm saying.
You're right. You go straight ahead.
I mean, when you if he goes straight ahead and those guys are getting blocks, that's where the good punt returns come from. You don't get good punt returns running east and west. There ain't no end zones east and west. There ain't nothing but out of bounds on east and west. If you want touchdowns and you want positive yards, you got to go north and south.
Look, we have dissected and chastised Eagles special teams play the entire season. Today, especially after that Green Bay game, today the coverage team came down. They were smacking people. You could hear pass popping on TV.
Oh, yeah.
Covey picked up significant yards in the return game, which helped him in terms of gaining field position. It's a one-game sample, but it's a start. It took 12 games into the season to finally see what we had been hoping for in terms of special teams play. Hopefully this is the start of something more consistently than what we have seen in the previous 11 games.
It's important. It's important that they begin to send this message the closer we get to playoff time, because the really, really good football teams, the really, really good coordinators, offensive and defensive coordinators, they're going to dominate in the playoffs.
Sure.
They're going to give you that extra that you might not necessarily get during the season. It's the same exact way in the playoffs. The better coordinators, special teams coordinators, are the ones that's going to make hay, because you know what they're going to do? They're going to break down every single thing that you've done all season long. And they're going to say, hey, we can run a fake punt here. We can run a reverse here on the kickoff. Or, we could get a block punt here. Or we can get a return here. So if you don't clean this stuff up now, it's just going to hurt you later on down the road.
17.5-yard average for Britton Covey today.
Wait, who?
Britton Covey.
Say his name. Put some respect
Say it
on
like
his
you
name.
mean it, Mike.
Put your mic closer to your mouth and say his
Covey.
name.
Put some sauce on it when you say it, Mike.
Poor Jake Elliott, though. He had a field goal taken off the board. Sorry, Jake. I know fantasy football players were not happy about that, but they wound up taking that penalty and scoring with half the distance to the goal penalty. So 35-10, they're 11-1, and next week against the Giants. And I know, Seth, at one point you feared the Giants. Do you fear them now?
Did I fear the Giants?
You feared them a little bit.
No. It's never fear. It's always respect. I respected the fact that Brian Daboll turned not only the performance of that football team, but the mindset of that football team in a completely different direction. Because, if Joe Judge was still there, I would have been like, oh, you can chalk those two up to victories. But I respected the fact that, he got those guys to play at a whole different level, that they actually began to believe in themselves, and they looked like a completely different team from one year to the next. Now, I respect the fact that Wink Martindale is their defensive coordinator. He's going to create some problems for the Philadelphia Eagles next week that they've never seen. He's highly aggressive. He's going to blitz you. He's going to do a whole lot of different things to try to confuse the heck out of Jalen Hurts on the field. So it's one of those things where, it's a two-pronged deal. Now, their offense doesn't really scare me a whole lot. Saquon Barkley, obviously, is the star. Daniel Jones is playing better, but he's still Daniel Jones. If you can get Saquon under control and force him to have to throw the ball, you can eat all day long off of Daniel Jones, if you pressure him. Now, if you let him sit back there, he can make throws, and he can hurt you with his athleticism by getting out of the pocket. But it's not fear. It's just, quite honestly, man, it's respect. They're right there.
I think when you take into consideration that Brian Daboll and his staff came in and took basically the same nucleus that won 3 games, 4 games a year ago, and you have them right in the thick of the playoff contention in 1 year, I think that says enough in itself that it wasn't maybe just the players, but it was the men leading the players. They didn't have the right people leading the players, and all of a sudden they bring in one of the best offensive-minded coaches in the game, coupled with one of the best defensive-minded coaches in the game, and look at how that organization has turned itself around. Are they a complete team? Far from it. But they're a much better team because those coaches learned how to utilize the talent that they had in-house.
I'm just worried about whether the Eagles win that game next week, and let's play Guess the Line.
Guess the line.
Let's play Guess the Line for next week at the Giants. I'm thinking the Eagles 5.
I was going to say 4, 4.5. I was going to say right around this. So 4 to 5, yeah. I agree with you in that regard. Yeah.
You feeling that, Seth? 4.5, 5 next week?
What was the line going into today?
Today it dropped to
Was it
4.5.
Yeah.
Right before game, but it was
Yeah.
running right around 6.5.
Yeah,
all
it started
week, right?
out at 6.5, I think.
I'm gonna say I think they open at 7.
Really?
It may trend down by the time
Road
we get to
favorite
the
by
end.
7.
I say 7 tonight.
All right, well, then
I think they listen. They've been that dominant last week. When you take last week and this week and you put it together, okay, they've been that dominant. And you got to ask yourself, how do they put these lines together? They put these lines together based upon past performance. We've seen the Eagles early on have some wide margins, and then all of a sudden, the previous to last week, the lines were like really narrow. Now all of a sudden they've had 2 dominant wins back to back. I think it's conceivable that this game could open up at 7 tonight.
which means they should have no problem.
Hey, listen, we thought they were going to have problems today. I personally thought that this was going to be the toughest game they had all season. They messed around and hung a 35 spot, on one of the better defenses in the league. So I don't put anything past them. And you want to know something? They might cover.
Okay.
7.
I like it because that's what I'm thinking. They win these next 2 at the Giants, at the Bears, and it sets up beautifully for a 13-1 matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. Right? That's what I want to see.
It's meaningful football in December. And the good thing is, if the Eagles run the table to that Dallas game, that means they have a 2-game lead still. The all-important 2-game lead, all-important securing that home field advantage for the playoffs. Eagles, we don't have to tell them this. The Eagles know they can't afford a stumble between now and the time they get to Dallas. I mean, that's understandable, and I don't think they will at this point.
And here's the beauty of this whole thing, because if they get that number 1 seed, not only do they get a bye, we get a bye.
We get a bye.
Right? We get a bye.
We get to sit home and watch a little football.
We can plan a little weekend. Whatever. Let's get together and have a little dinner that week. All right. John McMullen is going to be joining us shortly, right here on the Pond Lehocky Eagles postgame show today. Your final
Mike,
was 35-10.
Before you go, you don't know it yet, but you ain't getting no bye.
Oh, wow, we
ain't getting no bye.
Oh, we got a special.
No,
that
go ahead.
That must mean a playoff special show. Am I right? Playoff special show. See, Seth knows all this inside stuff.
I don't know anything. I'm just speculating.
Mike, you know what he just did? He finally got back at us because we've been getting at him all season long. So he finally got his little measure of revenge.
But he's on the inside. We're not.
That's
he's
true.
always telling me, hey,
all I am here is an afterthought. I'm just hanging out with you guys.
Stop it. I'm just throwing stuff up against the wall, hoping it sticks.
Look at the gleam on his face.
Stop
Look.
it.
Mike,
because last week he goes, hey, did you hear about it? I go, no, I didn't hear about that. He knows all.
Look,
our producer Joe shares every little thing with him, but not us.
Are you serious?
He's got. Did
you not look at your email this morning?
He's afraid of you.
I think we all were on the same email this morning. Really?
I didn't check the email this morning.
See, there you go.
You know why?
If you would have checked the email, you would have been in the know, Mike.
Hey, because Seth is Joe's favorite, Mike.
Oh, well, of course.
Oh, here we go.
Of course,
hey, Joe, can I take us to break, man?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You know everything else. Take us to break. I'm out.
Look, CEO Joe Kraus sitting behind the cameras. Everything Seth says, he does like this.
Yeah, of course he does.
He does one of these
first.
Where's Devin at, man? I need some help.
Because Seth will go, yo, man, why didn't you tell me that? Why didn't you tell me that? That's why he's afraid of it. Man. Let's take a break. On the other side, John McMullen and his views covering the game today. The Eagles Pond Lehocky postgame show continues after this.